Good morning. My name is Maria Guerra-Lepasic, and I'm the Commissioner of the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. Welcome to our second webinar. This webinar is dedicated to our Solution Station partner, SCORE. And I just wanted to also let the audience know if you have questions while we're speaking, please feel free to type it in. Our Director of Communication, Micah Stamba, is standing by to make sure that those questions are asked and answered for you. So I wanted to introduce to you today Andrew Swanson, who is a representative from SCORE, which is one of our Solution Station partners. Our Solution Station, as you know, is every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and every last Friday of the month from 9:30 to 3, where we bring one of our partners to help you with either business planning, tax issues, or business general issues, legal issues, and so people are there to answer your questions and to help you out. And like I said, today we have Andrew from SCORE. So welcome, Andrew. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, and good morning.
Great. So tell us what is SCORE?
Well, SCORE it's a non-profit. It's been in business for about 50 years, but its primary aim is to help people establish businesses, small businesses. It does that through mentoring, through courses, and for later on slightly larger businesses through consulting. Mentoring is the key to it. Mentoring sessions are free. They last for an hour. They're one-on-one with people like myself who have business experience. It's a big business, SCORE. There are about 11,000 volunteers nationally, 120 odd here in Chicago, perhaps second or third biggest chapter in the US. We've helped businesses. In 2015, there were about 55,000 businesses established with a SCORE contribution, which led to employment of about 63,000 people. So, you know, it's a big business, but our primary aim, one by one, is to help people.
Great. And so how do you qualify for being a SCORE volunteer? Do they just allow anyone, or do you have to have a certain background to be able to join SCORE as a volunteer?
People apply, but the requirement, I guess, is that they either have experience in running their own businesses, have started their own businesses, or have high-level experience in managing large businesses, and therefore have, you know, the experience to be able to help people. I fall into the latter category, you know, that I've worked with in large businesses, in manufacturing, and also in consulting. I was a management consultant for some 20 years till I retired last year. So I have both practical applied experience and also consulting experience.
Great to hear. So tell me, what drove you to volunteer for SCORE? It sounds like you had a successful career as a management consultant running businesses. Why did you decide that volunteering for SCORE was something you wanted to do?
Well, I read about SCORE in the New York Times about 10 years ago, and it stuck in the back of my mind as a very good organization. You know, it made use of skills and experience that the volunteers have, and I wanted to apply them. So I joined SCORE in October last year. I did a month or so of training, met many of my SCORE volunteer friends, and so I took up the BACP City Hall branch a couple of months ago, and I come in every Tuesday and meet with either walk-ins or people who've made appointments. You know, you can make an appointment on scorechicago.org and come and see me.
Great. So there you heard it, Tuesdays, make an appointment or just walk-ins. So talk to us about you know, the kinds of things people come to you with. What are people coming to you with that you can be helpful?
Well, I think the biggest share of people who come in are those who have an idea and want to crystallize that and turn it into a business. And they come with good ideas in their heads, but they're often a little unclear. You know, it's nothing wrong, you know, you're coming to learn, right? So they come to learn, and I have tried to help them with clarifying their business aim and then preparing a short business plan that sets out what are you going to do, who is your market or which is your market, a little bit about financials, and you know, just to get a picture of what you're going to do. I'm by no means a specialist in everything, let me say that. So just recently I had a husband and wife who came in with a draft business plan they wanted reviewed. They wanted to establish a bakery, you know, a specialist pastry shop actually. And you know, I don't, apart from watching what goes on in kitchens, I don't know
And
much
being
about
a consumer,
that.
maybe.
Exactly, yes. But I'd met one of my colleagues, Mitch Morris, who's worked in food area and has mentored a number of people who've started off bakeries and restaurants. And so I put them in touch with Mitch, and he's met with them and he's helped them understand some of the risk mitigation and market entry issues. So yeah, that's a good one. Another one, had a young man come along with a consumer idea, an online, essentially a loyalty program, which again was in the consumer area. My area of marketing expertise is business to business, not business to consumer. And so I got a hold of one of our volunteers, a guy called Bob Caden, who has a company, the Caden Company, which in fact is a specialist in market research and marketing. And so I handed off the mentee, and Bob has since met with him.
So that's a good point you bring up. So each volunteer from SCORE has their own background that serves as their expertise and serves as, you know, more or less a platform by which they can provide advice. When there are people that come in to see you that have a business model that's different from anything you either have worked with or feel comfortable giving advice, do you have the opportunity to go back to your colleagues and kind of pass on people for further guidance?
Well, that's a very important part of what SCORE does. You know, we have our bios and our special interest areas online, so you can search scorechicago.org in the mentor area, and then you can do that nationally as well. Again, one of my colleagues had an inquiry about a golf course maintenance opportunity identified here in Chicago, and you know, there's not that many people who know about that, but
Right.
within the 11,000 national volunteers, he found 3 people who could mentor over the phone.
Okay, so SCORE allows people who are seeking advice about their business to go on their website and select a mentor, so to speak?
No, that it's screened
Okay.
effectively by the face-to-face mentor.
Which would be you?
Yes, and
Okay.
I do the search, and I put people together and hand them off. You know.
Oh, okay.
So that means there's some control exercised, you know, to find the right mentor for the specific opportunity.
Do you ever get together and meet each other so that there's more conversation in depth about their expertise that different people have?
Yes, we meet monthly in a chapter meeting. You know, between a third and a half of the mentors get together, and we share best practices with other chapters around. We recently had someone from Quad Cities to talk about what they did, and they had one special program which was to try to bring together SCORE mentors with people from other organisations like the Women's Business Development Centre, BACP even maybe, you know, to talk about overlapping programs and how best to manage that. So yeah, we look for best practices within the chapter and also outside the chapter.
So do you also do partnerships outside of your partnership with us, with other organizations?
Most, I suppose, with the
Women's Business Development Center?
yeah, we exchange clients, you know, I guess you could say that. But you know, we are a resource partner, you know, with the Small Business Administration, and our head office resides in an SBA building, and the SBA are a major source of partnership.
Oh, that's good to hear. The Small Business Administration, the Federal Small Business Administration.
Yes. Yeah, we get no money from them.
Oh, okay.
But they give us rental space.
Okay, well that's good, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you provide assistance to them as well.
Yes,
to their clients.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. Is there, so all of the volunteers are screened, and is everyone retired, or
Oh, no.
are there still people active in the marketplace?
Oh yes, yes. I think the majority would be retired, but there are people like Bob Caden still running his company, and who still are active, and they can bring current, up-to-date things. We encourage our volunteers to keep up to date so that they're useful to their mentees. Part of my training was to attend some of the courses which SCORE offers to mentees as well. Mentoring is free. The courses are low cost or discounted or free if you're a veteran. So, but these courses, they're about 20 a month, I should think. They cover things from as basic as a business plan, accounting, marketing, through to sort of current developments like blogging and managing email campaigns and so forth.
And where can someone find out about these classes?
Go to scorechicago.org and click on the button that says courses, and you'll find
There's a calendar.
there's a calendar.
And price for each course?
Exactly so. Yeah.
Okay. So at what point in the business planning does it make sense to seek your advice? Is it when I have the idea and I'm thinking about it, or is it a better use of your time if I spend more time thinking about the plan and come to you with something maybe in writing or something more fully thought through and developed?
Well, we prefer someone who has done a little pre-thinking. We can't dictate. A person comes in with a good idea. It's up to them to turn that idea into reality. A mentor can guide and help, but if they have done a little pre-thinking, that makes the session more productive. But don't let that stop you. We really want to help people. I can read our mission. I'm going to read it just to get the words exactly right. I don't want to paraphrase it, but the mission is to foster vibrant small business communities through mentoring and education. And fostering starts right at the beginning.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So tell me about an anecdote of a success story that you've seen in the year that you've been a volunteer. Is there someone that stands out as someone that you were able to help that made you feel like this was someone who's going to be successful?
Well, it was a co-mentoring session that I joined with Mitch Morris, our mentor who's worked in the food industry, and I had two co-mentoring sessions with him, with a very eager chef who was keen to start his own restaurant. The restaurant industry is a tough industry. It's rather easy to enter and also easy to have to exit.
Right.
But he's off running a restaurant in Wisconsin. Mitch moved him along and helped him focus and understand what he could do. So he's establishing himself in Wisconsin. So I was there at the beginning, and I've heard it's happening. So.
How about tell us stories, an anecdote of, kind of a common, common situation that people come to you with that, might be good for you to talk about so that people listening can not fall into the same kind of trap.
Getting a location, I think, is perhaps for a storefront is perhaps one of the biggest issues. People have to understand the correct zoning, the internal requirements to support the business that they're entering. If you're going to have a child care, then clearly you need a bathroom, and you need the correct zoning, and you need room to do a decent size in order to get a critical mass. So you really need to think clearly about a location before you commit to a lease, before you pick a site. You need to think about the criteria. What should I be thinking about? I mean, that's not an anecdote. It's a sort of a business story that people need to think that through before they leap in. Leaping in is perhaps the thing which you don't want people to do. So you need to say, just hang on, just think a little more about this, and have you thought of another way of doing it? Not to hose people down, but just to make them stop and think a bit.
Good. I'm sure that's helpful in their thought process. A lot of people are very eager, as you mentioned, but there's pitfalls that come with, for example, signing a lease. on a location where the zoning isn't correct, you know, there's definite pitfalls that are very costly and time consuming and frustrating.
The other one is the nature of the business structure. You know, people starting a business on their own think of themselves obviously as the sole proprietor. A sole proprietor has liability for the debts of the business, whereas if you form an S corporation or a limited liability company, you are to some extent shielded by that corporation. And you know, these things are not expensive to establish. You can do much of it online, but it's a great way to protect and keep your business separate from your personal affairs. That's another must.
Yes.
Don't get the money confused.
Right, and just to elaborate on that, if you had a storefront and someone slips and falls and sues your business, if you were in a limited liability setting, the lawsuit would be limited to suing the business and the assets of the business, not your home or your personal assets.
That's exactly right. And
Right.
you know, I tell people that, and I give them a comparison, a sheet of paper which has got the comparison of the sole proprietorship with a couple of other things, and say, have a think about this. You know, now SCORE does not give legal advice, you know,
Correct.
and nor do we give tax advice. You know, we're not lawyers, we're not tax people, but that's the beauty of the Solution Centre. You know, the next day, Wednesday, it's the law project which comes in, and on every once a month on Friday, the IRS is there. So I tell them, you know, come back. There's people here who can help you with, you know, strong advice, not, well, this is what I did. So yeah, I like to tell people what else they can do at the centre. Yeah,
no, that's super helpful, I'm sure, because these issues are complicated and have, you know, kind of drastic outcomes for folks if they don't heed the advice you're giving them. And that advice is otherwise expensive.
Well, yes, but it's not daunting, you know. There are people there who can quickly guide you through it, and there are many, many people before you who have done it. So just ask the right questions.
Right. And then as far as, you know, we talked about storefronts. What about businesses that are moving in the high-tech sphere? Are you seeing any of that coming in where they're not operating out of a storefront necessarily?
Oh, yes, home-based businesses are increasingly common. I say that with the experience of a year, but we see people who are doing businesses from home. Our courses on blogging and social media and using email approaches, you know, constant contact and other offerings are very well attended. So yeah, we certainly are seeing that. And
what about trends? In terms of the trends that you're seeing of the businesses that are coming in, have you identified any trends there?
I'm surprised at the number of service businesses. I shouldn't, you know, the US GDP is 70% services. Why should Chicago be different? But that's certainly true. You know, service businesses are the bulk of our activity, and manufacturing and agriculture, you know, golf courses, is that agriculture? I'm not sure. You know, they're a lesser part of it.
Right, so the national trends are being seen at the local level.
Absolutely, yes.
Right. How about high-tech? Do you see any high-tech businesses come in?
I haven't.
Okay.
But then I'm one of 120. I can't keep track of all of the mentoring activities, so I can't really answer that.
Well, and there's also other mentoring opportunities for high-tech businesses, so I'm sure that they're being seen by, you know, like 1871, for example.
Right.
Yeah. Great. So is there anything else about SCORE that you would like for us to know?
Well, one thing that troubles us is that around a half of small businesses fail in the first 3 years of operation. You know, that means the effort of those who've helped, as well as the individual and individuals who've worked in that, it's not succeeded, and we worry about the reasons for that. And one of our initiatives which we're developing is something called Manage Hub, which is a program of a systematic approach to organising your business and making sure that all the people in the business understand their roles and responsibilities and can focus on the mission and goal and requirements of the business. And we think this has got some strength, not necessarily at the point where the person's first starting the business, but later on when there's a few employees and the business is beginning to develop critical mass. But it needs some structure, and Manage Hub may well be something which SCORE can offer in the future.
Well, that sounds tremendous, because you're absolutely right. People start up a business and sometimes are able to run the business themselves, but as they grow and take on employees, there's structural issues with the organization that they're not thinking through initially that can hurt them.
It can, and these are what are kind of loosely called founder issues. You know, the difficulty of letting go, of delegating, and we think Manage Hub has got some strengths in sort of fostering that direction.
And how is Manage Hub? So is that a new offering from SCORE, or is that part of the offerings that you? Can someone get a Manage Hub session through BACP, through your Tuesday sessions, or is that something separate?
This is hot from the presses.
Okay.
It's something which
wow, hot from the presses. That's great.
Or just released, but it's something which our mentors are beginning to pick up on, or will be picking up on, and so it's not yet available to people, you know, to pick up on scorechicago.org, but it's something which we feel is going to be of value in the future.
That's great, and it's called Manage Hub.
Yes.
So guys, we have buried the lead here. We are announcing a new program called Manage Hub that SCORE is implementing, and this is for businesses that are more or less ongoing and are kind of in danger of some pitfalls because of growth or just, you know, because of their own success somewhat.
Yes, I mean it's a sensible business step to make sure people have well-defined structure around them and understand their goals. So, I mean, it's part of what SCORE does. You know, I mentioned mentoring, I mentioned courses, but the third leg is consulting, and consulting is similar, if you like, to Manage Hub. It looks at businesses and tries to understand their strengths and offers solutions to business problems based on strengths. That's not so different, really, from Manage Hub, is it?
And when is that going to start in its offerings?
It'll be later this year. I don't exactly know the time schedule.
Okay, but I'm sure your website will announce.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, it's great to have you here, Andrew, and thank you so much for your. I'm sorry. Did you have anything else that you want to talk about that I?
No, I think you've heard what I've learned in 7 or 8 months. So yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Andrew, for your wisdom. Thank you for your volunteering. Thank you on behalf of all the businesses that you helped and the ones that you will be helping in the future. So you heard it here. SCORE will be in our solution station every Tuesday from 9:30 to 3. We also have other partners, Women's Business Development Center, the IRS, Accion. You should check out our offerings at bacp.org or the chicagoscore.org. Is it?
SCORE Chicago.
ScoreChicago.org.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for tuning in to our webinar. We'll see you next time.